Hi, my name is Sheila Corona. We're going to just jump right in here. I am reading Handbook for the New Paradigm, Volume 1. For those of you that are following along in the book, I am on page 126, and we are beginning with session number 37 here. If you are just joining or just now seeing this for the first time, if you go to my channel, Sassy Seer Sheila, you will find a playlist for this, and you can begin with the very first part of this book and just follow along. You don't even have to watch the video, you can just simply listen. So, session number 37, progress is being made within the hearts and minds of those who are reading these messages. By progress, we mean there is a shift within the consciousness that is reflected within the holographic activity that is you. In other words, the thought that each of you are is thinking and acting within itself. I'm going to read that again. In other words, the thought that each of you are, comma, is thinking and acting within itself. Your psychologists/psychiatrists would say there is a shift in the data stored within your subconscious. The prayer given previously, quote, I am a human becoming, help me to become, is powerful enough that simply reading it and considering it in a positive attitude begins the shift. The victim attitude is deeply ingrained within humanity as a whole. It shuts down the light of each child as soon as it is absorbed from the parental attitude. With the realization that victimhood is a falsehood and an ideal to be released, the holographic pattern immediately begins to brighten. Use it as a mantra, especially when encountering situations that have in the past triggered what has been referred to as, quote, giving away your power, end quote. These can be encounters with other people or life situations resulting from inappropriate decisions. The prayer wording allows a shift in attitude that reflects the intention of taking back that power. As it is practiced on a small scale within each individual life, then it becomes a tiny grain of sand in the mass consciousness that grows as others receive and begin to use this simple thought in their daily lives. I can feel the truth of this statement here. It might be appropriate here to define mantra. It is a short series of sounds or words that brings about balance within what you call the subconscious awareness. Often the sounds are from ancient languages that are not consciously understood, but resonate at the DNA, RNA level of the body, bringing about change in an outward flowing manner. And I want to pause right there because I'm being shown something. Each individuated portion of the all that is embodied in the physicality, may actually have different things that would trigger this for them, and why it's for me, I keep being shown imperative to find those puzzle pieces that work for each individuated portion, right? Because what we're talking about here, I'm going to say this again. I'm going to read this from the book again. Often the sounds are from ancient languages that are not consciously understood, but resonate at the DNA, RNA level of the body, bringing about change in an outward flowing manner. For me, I have found lots of different things I can feel this resonance vibrating in my cells as it's changing and flowing outward. And it hasn't so far been any ancient languages that I have been able to tell. Now, I have been exposed to sounds and some other things, even light language, that have caused an inner resonance that I attribute to that same thing. So don't, I want to say, broaden one's field when that is concerned. For me, is what I share here. Back to the book. The mantra as currently used is often an intuitive decision, yes, on the part of one person assigning it to another. Frequently, the appropriate combination is not given, and years of repetition bring little, if any, change. I think that's because it doesn't have your own unique flavor to it in some sort of way. Some choose on their own with the same result. The use of the simple prayer, I am a human becoming, help me to become, guarantees results. The most benefit is gained not by setting aside a period and using continuous repetition, but by single statements made in connection with conscious recognition of thoughts, encounters, or situations that bring forth your victim response. Oh my, I feel this is speaking to what I've done for myself, being very aware of what, choosing to see where it is that I give my power away to someone else. And that's not an easy thing to wake up to on any sort of level, right? So I'm going to say this again. The most benefit is gained not by setting aside a period and using continuous repetition, but by single statements made in connection with conscious recognition of thoughts, encounters, or situations that bring forth your victim response. Remembering and thinking it several times during the day is also helpful. You each have victim responses, and there are no exceptions. I feel that is a very true statement there. We've all been traumatized. Everybody, no one has escaped that on this planet. It's part of the it's part of the ticket to ride, actually. And so if you're here, you've been traumatized, because that's part of, I see it now because I've switched how I look at that. It was part of the deal for me. I set that up to experience it very specifically. It's formed and shaped and informed me in ways that have served me well throughout my lifetime and continue to do so in these moments of now. So how in the world could I look at myself as a victim there and then claim to be glad that happened because of what it produced, right? That, for me, I'm a bit of a logical person, so that wouldn't make any sense. Back to the book here. You each have victim responses, and there are no exceptions. You simply deny you do in order to deny that you give away your power to an ego that does not exist. Denial is the shield of the empowered ego that fosters victimhood as a result. Ooh, I like the way that's worded, because that's a true statement. This prayer will end the deification of the ego. Ego is function, not a false God personality. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. the number one false god is the falsely enthroned ego that you have been programmed to struggle against. A number of commonly used quotes are appropriate. That which you resist persists. Quote, that which you fear shall come upon you, end quote, etc. Oh my gosh, yes, because we create our own reality. I can point to several things in my own life and several things in lots of other people's lives where they created exactly what they feared the most, and myself included. You have been programmed to turn everywhere but inward in self-contemplation. That results in self-empowerment that in turn flows outward into expansive expression. I just heard, and therein lies why I'm on my third channel on the YouTubes. Okay. Self-contemplation is not sitting and staring at your navel, wondering, quote, who and what and where am I? It is practicing the use of the universal laws and contemplating the results of these applications in experience for the purpose of self-enlightenment. Each experience is a pebble in the pond of your life. Your not so friendly perpetrators have added other layers of programming very effectively. You must not look inward or empower the self because that is, quote, selfish. You are then, quote, guilty if you consider empowering the self because it is then implied that you will use the power to, quote, overcome others. This results in a distortion through misinterpretation early in childhood as each attempt to establish their innate tendencies to follow what gives them joy into greater expression. Wow, I can't tell you how many times I have closed out all of my videos, it seems like, with always move towards that which brings you the highest joy. The distortion spreads into countless intermingling and interacting complicated behavior patterns that pass from one generation to another. The simple use of the prayer/mantra frequently within group/family situations by the participating members would bring dramatic changes. The wide use of it, quote, wisely, would have phenomenal results. Well, I keep feeling that, where two or more are gathered. The point of this segment of information is not as a sermon, but instead to illustrate how a statement of simplicity and appeal can bring forth change in a way that resolves and literally dissolves intermingled and interrelated distorted patterns of experience. If you doubt this, use the small prayer and observe what happens. The more you use it appropriately, in parentheses, wisely, the greater demonstration you will observe. Well, I think perhaps I'll do that myself. There's no reason not to. I like what it says, actually. Following the first few remembered uses of it, you will find yourself using it silently in situations as simple as being irritated because the waitress is slow. It changes your experience, which in turn changes hers. There will be big irritations that will slip by, and later, when remembered, that are the most appropriate times to say it with meaning, emotion. It works. It would seem that this series of messages could perhaps have been condensed down into a few simple statements that would be as effective as the small prayer. Perhaps, but would you have heard them? In observing human tendencies, especially ones with media overwhelm and information clutter, it is a matter of chipping away at the established patterns of the quote, read and toss syndrome. Most who have awakened to the reality of the situation surrounding you are avid readers and listeners with this syndrome deeply patterned. The media overwhelm consists of constant repetition, plainly presented and supported by subliminal keywords and phrases. Oh my gosh, I have to stop right here. I just saw that so clearly yesterday, and we'll be talking about that very soon too. This places shields of resistance at the subconscious level that then accepts the subliminal messages like arrows penetrating a target. These messages have to slowly penetrate this shield using repetition and realizations of truth as our arrows to penetrate the shield and to cause places in the shield to open that the messages could be absorbed in the rereading of edited versions. Greater clarity and consciousness of particular true statements should argue this opening process. This doesn't indicate that your shield attempting to protect you from the media barrage is weakened. Instead, it is strengthened. The greater realization of the bigger picture of both aspects your surrounding situation allows for conscious sifting of all the information you are inputting. The realizations of truth and your sincere commitment to the project have rearranged the content of the subconscious in a way similar to programs used so computer files can be rearranged, allowing the disk space to be used in its most efficient configuration. That's called defrag, by the way. We were just talking about that the other day. Oh my gosh. That's what this feeling is I've been having. There's a defrag going on. This will be reflected in your life experiences. There may be some confusion, especially during your sleep patterns, as this reconfiguration of your subconscious actually happens. For the more self-aware, it will be more pronounced and for a time even troublesome. Wow. This process will allow you to absorb the important contents of the messages into a format at both levels of consciousness. It is like entering two interacting programs on a computer. Oh my God. That's part of what I'm going to be talking about in the next conversation that we're going to have hopefully later today. Oh my gosh, I cannot unsee this. Something like Word overlying Windows, both contributing to a greater practical application available to the quote user. How well it works depends on how well the user learns and applies its available unique applications. This is an apt analogy for careful consideration by serious users intending to take advantage of the opportunity to shortcut older methods of, quote, grubbing it out. I don't know what grubbing it out actually means. I'm just going to continue on here and read number 38. So we're on session number 38, 129 in the book, if you're following along. There are many levels. I'm going to take a drink of water here real quick, though. There are many levels involved in the process of bringing forth the accelerated change in the consciousness of Earth inhabitants / planetary awareness. The focus of the mass consciousness at the individual level is outward, in contemplation of each one's environment. The deliberate teaching that the Creator is a personality somewhere beyond the sky in the heavens, making arbitrary judgments about which of the victim prayers deserves answering, is a picture of the structure inherent within the abhorrent plans being carried out all around you. Oh, wow. I cannot believe how timely this is. Honestly, I was listening to the Leo King this morning. Today's date is 8/31/2023 for those of you who are interested. And we are still in the full moon in Pisces phase. And this is so interesting to me that these two, well, all of these, ever since I started reading this, are so apropos to what is going on in my life right this minute that I sometimes have trouble assimilating this. It's just so synchronistic what's been going on here. So I'm going to start this again right here where it says the deliberate teaching that the Creator is a personality somewhere beyond the sky in the, quote, heavens, making arbitrary judgments about which of the victim prayers deserves answering, is a picture of the structure inherent within the abhorrent plans being carried out all around you. It is constrictive in its focus, the opposite of expansive creation that maintains itself through an over unity mode, meaning the flow brings forth an exponential increase of energy beyond what is focused into manifestation. This results through the inverse movement of the self-contemplative focus, which is within the intentional manifestation or the action of the second universal law. I think I went somewhere. I have to go back and read that. Wow. Okay, I totally did. It is, maybe it's because of this, it is constrictive in its focus. It is constrictive in its focus, the opposite of expansive creation that maintains itself through an over unity mode, meaning the flow brings forth an exponential increase of energy beyond what is focused into manifestation. This results through the inverse movement of the self-contemplative focus, which is within the intentional manifestation or the action of the second universal law. It can again be likened to there being two sides to a coin. Through the intention of creating / manifesting, there is the result of the manifestation, and then the contemplation or experiencing of this process, which is the self contemplating as it experiences. This involves the five senses, ego observation, and the contemplative thought process. Ideally, all this moves through the individual life experience in a flow. This is so, I get it. This is awesome. This is not to say that each individual would always create positive experiences. However, if the process was understood at the subconscious level, then the effects of an inappropriately caused experience would be contemplated. Through the necessary adjustments of attitude and intention, a lesson would be, quote, learned, and the overall experience pattern continued with little trauma, greater wisdom gained, and further upliftment of the energy vibration. Through consideration of the ideal, it is easy to conclude that the planned reversal of this flow to create an opposite, inclusive flow would end in something like your scientist's theory of the black hole, absorbing all available energies into a compacted mass. Why then have these planners not figured out the greater picture of the inevitable end of their endeavor? The enthroned ego, with an addiction to power and control, is seldom able to perceive logically. You perceive this type of distortion as insanity because of an individual's inability to follow the logical norm of the societal group. No, this is a very real thing this is talking about. This was published in 2018. This is so much more true now than it ever was before. Sometimes it is because the creative thought process is far beyond this societal norm, and sometimes it is ruled by distorted ability to perceive. This is both genetic and learned behavior through controlled indoctrination, interchanged between the present generation and those following. The particular group holding our interest promotes longevity and positively believes in reincarnation. Each of the hierarchy are programmed at birth through magical methods that they are a reincarnation through a long line of predecessors, all committed to, and I'm being asked to pay particular attention right now because my nose is going crazy to this. That's my sign, my guidance sign, to pay particular attention to what I'm getting ready to read, because this is important to me specifically. Yeah, this makes perfect sense too. And because it goes along with what I've suspected all along too. I'm going to read it again. Each of the hierarchy are programmed at birth through magical methods that they are a reincarnation through a long line of predecessors, all committed to this project. Each generation is then perceived as being further empowered than the last. In this way, their project has continued on for what you experience as eons of time toward this important pivotal point. I feel like this is very true here. This project, which deviates so far from the acceptable norm, has come into form through the use of the first two laws of the universe, attraction and focused attention. Focused intention, sorry. However, it is not possible for them to move out of the flow of expansive energy in a relaxed mode. The law of allowance is ignored. The only way for balance to be maintained is through rigid control of all aspects by planning and executing every detail to dovetail within their overall plan. Deviations are detected as quickly as possible, and all haste is taken to remedy the situation by any means possible in the belief that the end justifies the means. I've been contacted by more than one being. I've had more than one conversation with beings that I've experienced being supposedly in dreams, in other realms, in control rooms and conference rooms, discussing what to do next. And it's more like situation rooms and things like that. And I feel like that's what this is describing here. This overview of the pattern of their plan does not indicate that it is any less formidable. Earth and its inhabitants are firmly within the grip of its influence, and the situation must be intentionally resolved. It is beyond the point that containment would be appropriate while the inhabitants figured out their role. The control being exerted outweighs the possibility of this taking place without focused assistance. The focused assistance is manifesting into the heart of their game in the form of Project New Paradigm. With its multifaceted application of all 4 laws, you must contemplate the inside out process concurrent with the outside in process through the nuances of previously explained facets of creative flow to arrive at a picture of the game board. You will then be able to choose intelligently to join the play or not. The play will be interesting to follow. One focus of play will be intense and controlled, giving forth an aura of determined restraint, planning, and examining every move. The other relaxed, allowing each play to be drawn through the wisdom of thought, thinking, resulting in calm game moves, each flowing into the next in an expansive mode. The adversary considers that each play represents a shift necessary before another play can be conceptualized and focused into manifestation within the application supplied by the use of 2 universal laws as a self-governing factor. The balance, as perceived by them, is established control. Since their focus is restricted to using only 2 laws, using the third in an opposite mode makes the 4th impossible to attain. In other words, within our analogy, they are playing with only half a deck. There are slang references to insanity as playing with only half a deck. Quite appropriate. There have been frequent uses of analogies within these messages. Each illustrates the understanding of 2 areas: the reintroduction of the universal laws and an overview of the game strategies in simple terms. We have attempted to add dimension to those understandings within succeeding messages. As you assemble these bits of information into blocks of understanding, you enhance your ability to contribute to the project. Commitment and resolve Garner confidence in your day-to-day experience as you attract opportunities to participate. This releases the need to react toward the programmed individuals caught up in the negative focus and brings allowance into your experience. You know how the game is being played and can now perceive that you have the choice to participate intelligently, resulting in a new sense of balance through purpose. Through returning to a familiar, expansive expression, your sense of well being becomes magnetic and radiant. You are beginning the transcendent process. The creative process takes advantage of every opportunity to continue its expansive mode. Your heart welcomes this wondrous opportunity and adds the dimension of emotion to the thinking level, bringing forth outward dimensional expansion. This is how it works. I love that. That was session number 38. And now we will begin next time with session number 39 on page 132. And that's coming up next.